Hi, everybody. Welcome to Talking Heartland. And this is the show where we're looking at back episodes of the Heartland TV show. And we are on season 13, episodes 4, 5, and 6. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. Michelle is here. She's back.
I'm back.
Yay.
Um,
Tell
it was
us.
so fun. I would also say it was just really fun just to listen last week.
Oh, good. You got to be on the other side.
Yeah.
Well, how was Outlander Con?
It was really, really fun. It's the first time in maybe 2 years I've done something like that with that many people. But yeah, it was really fun. And well organized. Unfortunately, Glasgow, even though it's, a really big city, it's not got any hotels that have the room or the capacity to do something like that. So the hotel was a little cramped and it was a Hilton, and it was sort of the only option available to us, because usually it's in Birmingham, but I think because it had been postponed, because of the pandemic, for over 2 years, the organizer wanted to make it a little bit special. So he brought it up to Glasgow, and it meant that, Jamie Fraser himself could be there. But yeah, it was really, really fun. It was just nice being in a little convention bubble for a weekend. You sort of escape real life when you go to these things.
It is definitely fun. I'm looking forward to going to Christmas Con in August for that same kind of experience. I
had a friend here in the UK that they flew out and went to Christmas Con, and I'm just
really?
Yeah, they actually went. And a lot of people, obviously, they don't really realize, and then sort of the community, I'm in the convention community in the UK, they were so baffled by the idea of Christmas Con. They were like, do you just go and celebrate Christmas? What's happening?
Yeah. I even got, because I'm determined I'm not going to get sick, so I got Christmas themed KN95 masks to wear.
Nice. Well, even in the one I went to, it was you had to show your vaccination status, or you had to show that you had a negative test within 24 hours of entering the event. So even with all of those precautions, and because it was, Outlander is so universal, and you don't just have the fans of the TV show, you have the fans of the book before the TV show started. So it's so universal. So many people flew in from all over the world, Australia, and a huge contingent from the US, just all over. So people were just, even with all the precautions, people were going to get sick. I was very fortunate that, I just sort of had my normal sort of stuffy nose, and, I was fine in a couple of days. But yeah, a ton of people come down with COVID. It's just unavoidable at this point.
Yeah, I agreed. I just, because I am staying in California for the next weekend, so it'll be a big bummer if I get sick. So I'm gonna try everything I can to not get sick. But anyway, I did catch up on Outlander this summer, by the way. I finally binged it. So good. So I'm with you there.
I binged 3 seasons, and 2 seasons at what I think it was 3 seasons all in, but the sort of a season and a half was all within a weekend. I was literally dreaming about the characters. I was like, I need to watch something else.
Well, we have 3 very good episodes of Heartland that you got to watch. Well, I guess we should ask, what did you think of the beginning of season 13, since you were gone last week?
I loved it. Yeah, it was really, really good. And I loved listening to Jess and Micah's thoughts on it. I'm a little bit, worried about where they're headed with Lou. It feels very repetitive. Just in her sort of relationship, sort of cycle that she goes on, that the writers sort of have her on. But yeah, I'm excited about, and Georgie as well. I was a little bit worried in those episodes about where they were headed, but I'm feeling a little bit better having watched these ones.
Yeah, I agree. They just don't seem to be able to get Lou's romantic life right. It just, I don't know. It always feels rushed and then repetitive, as you said. I don't know. Yeah. It's a little frustrating.
It's frustrating. And Micah had a good point in his sort of recap of saying, like, the chemistry isn't the issue. Like, and that's so frustrating. The amount of times we've had to sit through just excruciating chemistry between actors on shows.
Right.
Because, you know, the way the show is, you know, they're the end game couple, or, you know, it's sort of, you know, based on something and they're the canon couple. But, you know, Heartland's been so fortunate they have, you know, these couples, you know, that have great chemistry. And I think that those actors have really good chemistry. It's not really the chemistry that's the issue. It's the, like I said, it's sort of the sort of cycle that they seem to always have Lou on. And I'm not sure if it's just because, you know, she's in and out so much, but yeah, it's really frustrating.
Yeah, it really is. Well, the first episode we're going to talk about is The Eye of the Storm. This is season 13, episode 4, and it's a dangerous windstorm wreaks havoc on Hudson. And I mean, I guess I don't really know what the technical difference is between a windstorm and a tornado, but didn't it actually have a funnel cloud?
Yeah, it had like a full-on tornado. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that wasn't a windstorm. But yeah, you have all of the different characters that are all have kind of different stories dealing with this tornado. And I thought this is in the running for one of the best ever. I thought it was very good.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, very much so. I feel like Sean Johnson really carried the episode. And I you know, the show has been going for so long, and I find it really remarkable that they're able to, you know, create these sort of backstories that we haven't seen yet. You know, they've been on for over a decade at this point, and yet they're able to sort of mine all of these new stories and sort of history. And I feel like it would be very difficult on the shoulders of another actor, but you know, Sean Johnson is just so, he's just so good. And I thought it was interesting just have the people that they chose to have him tell that story to. It really worked. I feel like it would have been, you know, a little bit different if, you know, Lou or Lisa or somebody else was there. I feel like they chose the right people to have that conversation. But yeah, I really loved this episode, and just the way, like, you know, like you're always saying of the horses being in distress, like the way they were sort of dealing with all of these horses that were panicking and, you know, trying to get them out into the wild, like it was crazy. Like I don't know how they got all those horses to like panic the way they did.
Yeah, I don't know either. And it just built momentum so well for all of the characters and their little plot lines. And I cried. When he's talking about June and that the and he's reading in the journal, he's given me the gift of leaving. And then Amy says, I think it's Amy or Tim, I can't remember, but you gave June her big chance. And that I wrote down in my notes, that got me. Tears. And June died doing what she loved to do. I also thought Luke was so good in this episode, you know, when he says you haven't treated me the same since I found that box, the hat box. And that whole was very well done.
Because I mean, it's something that, and it felt very plausible that Jack, that's a story that Jack would have kept himself. You know, it didn't feel sort of shoehorned in. It did feel very like understandable that Jack would keep this to himself.
Yeah, I do feel like it's unrealistic that he would never have read that before.
Like the last entry.
Yeah, he never read it, and he tells Amy that June's words were what I've wanted to hear my entire life, and I can't thank you enough. And I guess when there's a windstorm or a tornado, they put the horses out to pasture as opposed to being in the stable, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah, it was surprising until I saw what happened to Kirk's barn, and I was like, yeah, it's probably safer.
Yeah,
they'll probably
true.
find a natural way to sort of, you know, shield themselves. than, being around man-made things that can collapse.
I mean, you can tell that this episode was made in sort of peak Heartland popularity. I mean, I don't know if we're still in that arc, but in 2019, October 13th, 2019 is when this aired. And just, I mean, this had a pretty hefty budget, I would think, this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not even like a mid-season finale or like a premiere or anything. It's obviously part of a two-parter, but yeah, you can definitely tell that, they definitely spent a big chunk of their budget on this one.
Yeah. They're boarding up all the windows and preparing for the storm. Have you ever, I mean, I guess, have you ever been in any kind of tornado or like that kind of storm?
No, I'm very fortunate in where I live that we don't really deal with that. It's been pretty bad sometimes, but nowhere near like you see things on TV of things in the States and you're just like, it totally blows your mind of like the type of weather you guys have to deal with. But yeah, nothing like that.
Yeah, I've been in, we had like a tiny little tornado, which was totally random here in Salt Lake. that was memorable just because it was so weird that this was when I was in college. And I'm like, what? There's a tornado happening? But it was really small. But then I guess the bigger one that I've been in was when I was on my mission in Indiana. This was in 2004. And I have some pretty crazy pictures of my companion and I out in because we didn't know, because when you're on your mission, you don't watch news or you don't watch television at all, or, listen to the radio. So aside from the tornado warnings signal that they do when it's pretty close, to things happening. Anyway, we were like completely oblivious, we're out there. And but we took, there's some pictures of us with one with my companion holding the umbrella, and it's like popped out and she's like trying to hold on to it in the wind. It was crazy. But anyway, that one only ended up damaging a couple buildings, but so it was still small.
Yeah, similar here. I mean, I think the big thing in the UK is more, flooding of, places that are very sort of low down and rivers burst their banks, and a lot of communities are ruined by that. But yeah, nothing in terms of like tornadoes or anything like that. Like we've had really strong winds and things like that. But yeah,
it was a wild experience, though. I'll never forget it. I mean, I can't imagine it being more intense. That's got to be wild. Yeah. But the wild horses have disappeared, and that's what Jack says, that they'll beat any weather report. Horses, which is interesting. And Luke with going after Boots. Oh, didn't that just break your heart?
Yeah, he's so similar to Georgie at that age. Of like, you can definitely see Georgie doing the exact same thing for Phoenix when she first came to Heartland.
Yeah, true. If anything happens to Boots, I'll never forgive you ever.
Yeah, he's like, bro.
Oh man, it was an intense moment, and then so Ty and Amy are very stressed out about this whole Kirk thing, and I guess I don't really believe that one troll on the internet would completely ruin their business. That seems like a lot, especially when she's been so praised, for it to kind of go the other way for one person. I mean, I feel like most people are just like, oh, whatever. Don't you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of back and forth on it. If you sort of look at it as it's a small community, and but people travel all over to come and see Amy. So that's the part where I'm like, not very believable that one guy making like, dozens of, anonymous accounts sort of ruin someone.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem as sort of believable, but if, and also it feels like the people in, Hudson and sort of the surrounding areas sort of know who Amy is, so
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't really pay any mind to that. But yeah, I feel like this Kirk storyline is probably the only thing that I'm a little bit weary on. With these,
Mm-hmm.
first 6 episodes of like it went on a little too long for me.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, I do appreciate that they gave him like valid motivation. I mean, has cause to be very upset with them for them almost killing his horse. Like, I can understand why, especially when you learn about his wife and that the horse was his wife's and everything. You can understand that. So they didn't just make him like a crazy person. He's definitely angry, but he has some cause, which I appreciate.
Yeah, and even that, like it didn't really make sense that Amy would make that decision of bringing Phoenix to Heartland when I know that she didn't know that he had that particular disease. She just thought it was like a flu type thing. But even at that, like it's not like Phoenix would have been in a bad situation. At the airport, he had a vet looking after him. So yeah, it's the whole thing could have been avoided if they just listened to the vet.
Yeah. Well, so Kirk threatens a restraining order, which, in my opinion, from everything I've ever heard, I think restraining orders are totally worthless. They don't do any good.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll just do what they want.
Yeah, people just do what they want. And I mean, I guess it gives you a little bit more proof, I guess, in court later on. But the idea that that's actually going to stop people from being in your space if they want to be in your space, then is probably not realistic. But Ty is determined to keep talking to Kirk because evidently he is completely ruining their business. They have no clients, and they also have they told the contractor to stop building. So
I also find it a little bit crazy that they're going ahead with the house without any type of savings.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've talked about this before. Why doesn't I feel like Amy should have a lot of savings. She's been working since she was 16 years old and a full-time job. She doesn't have any mortgage or rent to pay. So I don't understand why she doesn't have a lot of savings.
Yeah, and when you consider the sort of stuff that the type of stuff that Lou does, like the type of stuff she finances, I don't understand why Amy isn't in the same position.
I mean, she doesn't have any student loans. She hasn't been to college. Like, there's no reason she doesn't have like a fancy car. I just don't understand why she doesn't have a lot of money saved up.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It makes no sense.
But then we have Ty confronting Kirk. Kirk says to leave, and Ty tells him to put the horses out. And it flips back and forth, and they end up the guys at Heartland. It's Tim and Luke and Amy and Jack. That's it, right?
Yeah.
At Heartland. And so they go in the shelter, in the cellar. And they get Remy in. That was a little bit tense. When Remy
I thought like, for a second. That's like, don't you dare.
And then Ty goes over to Kirk's and in the middle of the storm, and he tries to convince him, like I said, to put the horses out. and Sarge is obviously a handful because he's always been, and they end up they end up getting Sarge out, but but they get pinned under in the barn with the storm. And all this was very well done. I just thought the way that it was, the editor deserves, I think, the biggest credit in this one. I thought it was very well put together as far as, and even the music was really good. And it just, I think you could watch this. This would have been a good one to watch with Ryan, as somebody who's just like a standalone, who hasn't watched all the seasons. This is a good episode, I think, for someone like that. If you wanted to introduce them to Heartland, this would be a good episode, I think.
Yeah, very much so. And even just like the collapse of the barn was done really well, for like a TV budget.
I think so. Yeah.
Hey, this is David from the Piecing It Together podcast, a podcast about movies and the movies that inspire them. For over 4 years each week, a guest and I take a look at a new movie through the lens of what other movies we think were either an influence or connect in some other way. It's a fun, unique way to discuss films that leads to a great list of other movies to check out that either explore the same themes and ideas or maybe utilize similar filmmaking techniques. Including special episodes in our side series that twist the format, we've done over 200 episodes, so there's bound to be one on a film you've been thinking about and want to dig deeper into. So check us out on all the major podcasting apps and at piecingpod.com.
There's a desk in the cellar, and it turns out that was June's desk that Jack set up for her. And he says, "I loved my sister very much. It always felt like me and June against the world, especially against our father. He was tough." And so he sets up the desk for her so she could get some peace from their father. And he goes off to the rodeo. She was sure I would win it all, but I didn't realize it would mean losing her. And that was very well done. It got me.
Yeah. It was very well done, and I think the sort of, it's an interesting idea to add in that Jack never actually wanted Heartland, considering the way he feels about it. But then on the flip side, it makes sense that he cares so much about it because of what it meant to his sister. So it worked in both senses. And Sean he was just so good in this scene.
Yeah, and like we said last time, they have Sean's son playing young Jack, Shay Johnston, and I think that was brilliant. It was very well done. It was very smart.
That could have went very badly, but I feel like Shay, I believe he works behind the scenes on the show.
Oh,
so he's very for many years. So I believe he's like a director's assistant or something like that. So he's like very familiar with the show and has seen his dad, as Jack, and obviously probably has a lot of the same mannerisms and stuff. So it worked really well.
Yeah, and I thought he did a good job. I think he was a good actor.
So,
it wasn't just a stunt casting.
No, not at all. And I believe I'm not sure, but I think it's like his first thing he's ever done as an actor, and it's very impressive. Talk about being thrown in a deep end.
Yeah. So we also have Lou and Peter trying to talk to Georgie. That's kind of the other hub. You have Lou, Peter, Georgie, Katie in one of the Dude Ranch cabins. And they're trying to talk to her about applying for school. And she hasn't applied for college yet. And I don't know. It's an interesting thing as a parent, like how much do you push and how much do you give space? I mean, she doesn't have to go to college at all. I mean, Amy didn't go to college.
Yeah, but
she just right. If she wants to work in basically shadow Lisa and learn that career, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But Lou really wants her to go to college. I mean, she seems to just be upset that Georgie just doesn't have a plan. Which it's not that uncommon for somebody that's 18.
Not at all. I feel like Lou's in such a panic mode over this, and it's like not a big deal at all. It's like, considering like the sort of stuff that Georgie has done up until now, like the idea that she would like some breathing space is like that's so understandable. You know, she's been so full on for years with the jumping and the sort of competing. Yeah, the idea that she would want to take a second and figure out her next move is very understandable. And she's 18. I think that's, yeah, not everybody's had sort of a plan for their whole life the way that Lou probably did. And even at that, like, her plan obviously changed. So yeah.
Yeah,
a little over the top.
It did make for probably a peak Katie moment, though. I thought it was really funny when she's like, "It's nice being together. Don't worry, I know you're stars." but she says, "I miss being a family like this sometimes." That was sweet and funny.
Yeah,
it was good. And she says that Georgie says starting college means saying goodbye to competing. And then Lou says, if anyone can juggle being a student and competing, it's you.
Yeah, that seems a lot, though.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot to put on someone.
When you're talking the Olympics, I mean, again, I just don't think they should have bring the Olympics into it. I think maybe that's just a barrier for me, but I feel like that's where it's like, no, you cannot go to college and be ready preparing for the Olympics. There's no way. I mean, maybe correspondence or, online or whatever, maybe. But
yeah, I mean, the only athlete that I'm aware that's sort of done that is oh God, his name is completely jumped out of my head, but it's the American figure skater, Nathan Chen.
Oh yeah, he's Utah.
Yeah, he went Utah. I think he went to like Harvard or some like university, like huge university, and competed at the Olympics.
Wow.
But he's the only. But every other athlete, every other skater that I'm, familiar with, they pretty much lived at their rank, at their rank. Sorry, yeah.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
He's like superhuman, so it makes sense for him.
But I mean, and I guess you don't necessarily have to be full time if she could take a couple classes and be a competitor, but it seems like she's taking a break. And we also get June's last entry that, like we said, that made me cry, and we talked about, but she says, Dad's letting me help. I'll be out in the fields today, just like Jack. Someday I'm going to help other horses at Heartland. Now I have a chance to show Jack and Dad I can do it. He's given me a gift of leaving. And so that was very moving.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job of the time period of making it look, obviously it couldn't be like crazy authentic, but I feel like they did a good job of making it look, time appropriate to when this would have been happening.
Yeah, I do too. And then we have Ty and Kirk getting pinned down under the rubble of the barn, and they can't move, and so they have to kind of work together to move the rubble. I mean, they were lucky that nothing was broken.
Yeah, it's just like typical Ty of like almost died. No one is going to help someone.
Well, yeah, and then Ty says to Kirk, who is Carla, and finds out his wife Sarge was her horse. And then Kirk says, you saved them, Ty. You're the hero today. I know that. I'm going to make sure everyone else does too. So if only all internet trolls could be solved by a tornado. A near-death experience.
Yeah.
Alas, that is not the case. But then when Luke runs to find Boots, that was just so cute. I love Luke so much.
He's so good.
Mm-hmm.
And he really sells the connection between him and Boots. It is very similar to the horse relationship with our main characters that we've seen so far, but yeah, he's very like convincing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what did you think about the whole moment with Lou and Peter and Lou saying, I love you? Like, was that awkward at all or just sweet?
I feel like it's a little awkward, but also like
It's nice that
I
they're
don't know.
finding a way to
It's
co-parent.
nice, yeah, it's nice to find a way to co-parent, and you know, you don't stop loving someone just because you fall out of love with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is, very much comes across with their relationship. Um, and it's nice because we have been through so much with them. Um,
Yeah.
to them, yeah. And there's also, I think, there's always going to be that, sense of jealousy of, this, the person that I'm divorced is sort of succeeding in a part of the life that I'm not. I feel like that will always be there, but I also feel like it's important that they show that the love will always be there as well. Especially they're going to be in each other's lives for the next, 10 years or however long it will be until Katie's 18. So yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
nice. Yeah, it's always a little awkward with those two because you just never
Yeah.
know when to pull a fast one on you and make sure.
Yeah. And so then Georgie fills out the application. We have a really nice conversation between Tim and Jack. Tim saying he had no idea about Jack's dad. It makes sense of why you wanted Marion to cut me out of her life. And maybe I understand you more completely. So that was a nice moment, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you give this episode 1 to 10?
Not sure. I think I want to give it a 10. I think it's really good.
I agree.
Like,
I give it a 10 for what this show is trying to do. I think
exactly.
I have really no flaws with it. I mean, it was very well done. So
we'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Well, the next episode is called Fairy Tale. And it's Amy and Ty worry about the impact of a surprise visitor will have on Luke. So basically in this episode, you have the fairy tale part of it is this horse, Ophelia. I forgot to write down what kind of a horse she is, but she's very beautiful. The horse, Ophelia.
I think it was like a gypsy horse.
Yeah, it was different. It was different looking. I'm not sure. I forgot to write that down, but yeah, and she's beautiful, and she's basically like a collector's item for this lady. And it's their first client since the Kirk debacle. So they're pretty excited about it. Big part about this episode is we have Andrea coming back and getting Luke and a surprise visit. She gives him a drone, special expensive drone. And she is very kind of suspect. We find out that she's bipolar, but she's getting help for it. But it just makes you really insecure that she's gonna take Luke the whole time. And I guess, what did you think about all this?
Yeah, I thought it was handled really well. And it's something that, Amy and Ty will have to deal with if, they want to continue, fostering kids, of like dealing with parents and dealing with, the boundaries. And I thought it was really well done, just in terms of like Amy and Ty and the things that they're going to have to face in the future. And I also think the show naming what mental health, naming what her illness is was a big step. They don't tend to do that. So I thought that was a really good step. So it was very clear to me that she was bipolar, but I didn't think the show would actually say that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, a step forward for the show. But yeah, I feel like they sort of built the tension very well. And I also don't think that they made Andrea a villain in any way, shape, or form. I feel like they handled that really well, as well as her seeing the life that Luke has and a life that she might not be able to give him. Thought that was done really well.
Yeah, and when she takes him for ice cream, you do worry that, oh my gosh, she's gonna take him, and they're gonna call the police. And she's like, why would you call? And they're like, we're responsible for him.
Yeah,
you think she'd at least understand that. But I thought it was a great moment for Luke when he says I'm not good. I was scared we weren't coming back.
Yeah, that's got to be hard for Andrea to hear as well, of like what's next for Luke. Because although Andrea's getting better, she's still going to need a lot of support. Medication and therapy can only do so much. You have to really work at things like that. Yeah.
Well, and it just makes you admire what his foster parents do.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't do it. Yeah.
I don't think I could do it either. I
really admire anyone that can, do that for any length of time, like long term. And just, saying goodbye to those kids must be so hard.
I remember talking to Jen Lilly about this, and she is foster to adopt 2 of her children, and she's a big advocate for foster care. And she always says, you can't hold back the love. You have to love all the way. And that would be really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, amazing props to the people who do it and do it well. That's really an incredible thing. But we have 2 other plots going on in this episode. We have Mitch and Lou at this rustic cabin. They stumble upon another piece of land. They call it Aspen Grove, and Mitch wants to buy a place and then move in together, but Lou isn't ready for that, and she starts kind of getting really upset about it, and she just says she needs more time. And that would be hard for me because I'm the kind of person that once I make up my mind, I just want it to be done. Let's do it. Why are we waiting? Like that is just not my personality.
Yeah. That feels like that's very much where Mitch is at.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, I don't know. Like, for instance, when I was going to college, I decided my major very quickly and I finished in 3 years because that's just how it's like, okay, I got to get it done. Let's do it. And I think that if I were to get in a relationship and got engaged or, whatever, I don't think I would have a very long engagement. I just want to get it done. Let's go get married. Because that's just who I am. So I can understand Mitch here.
Yeah. I was also just very confused of why they randomly bought property when they don't have a place to live. And then in the next episode, Mitch is getting a loan. I'm like, well, you wouldn't need a loan if you didn't just buy a ranch as a holiday vacation. Like, you live there. Why are you buying Like a
Yeah, it
holiday
seems
spot.
kind of a random property for a vacation home, like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
I
not
guess
far from where you live.
I guess he can put the cows there. I guess.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
I
know.
guess.
It
It just
was
seems
kind of
very like
random.
random. Yeah. I was like, oh, you're gonna like live there? That
Mhm.
makes more sense. But yeah, no, they're just gonna go there at the weekend.
They really enjoy riding this horse, Ophelia, and Georgie tells the owner that she's not some kind of piece of art you can put on display. Um, so, and then Tim ends up taking, so there ends up being the second conflict in this episode is you have Sam, played with Sean Roberts, that that doesn't want them going on his land because they want to go on the land to try to find Champ, who's missing. And so they're looking all over. And so then Tim takes Luke's drone and Sam shoots it in the air and destroys the drone. And so then he has to go buy a new one for Luke. And Luke's like, why is it still in its box? I don't know. I thought all that was funny.
Yeah, I really like Sam. I feel like they're setting him up to be like a nice guy that Tim is just gonna try and make a villain out of for no reason other than he's Tim. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think Sam did anything wrong here. I think he's just like kind of annoyed by Tim, understandably.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he really does worry about them being on his space or whatever. I don't know why he doesn't just let them. If
Yeah.
it's not actually there, why he doesn't just let them ride around in his land for, a couple hours looking. But yeah, he is being stubborn about it. And they say to the Ophelia owner, they say Heartland is that rare place where the horse always comes first. And then Luke and Katie find Champ with the wild horses. So what would you give this episode 1 to 10?
I'll give it an 8. Yeah, I really like this one.
Yeah, that's fair. That's good. All right. Then the last episode we have this week is called A Time to Remember. Georgie's graduation has finally arrived, but so has a mysterious figure from her past. That makes it sound quite like a thriller or something.
A Lifetime movie.
So we have a horse called Shooting Star, which Lisa is trying to train to be a hunter jumper. I don't know what that means, but
no idea. Jumper, I understand, but I don't understand what a hunter jumper is. You learn something new about horses every week on this show.
Yeah. So they're trying to train the horse, and then we also have Georgie's graduation, as the summary said, and she is kind of got mixed feelings, and you have Adam who's hyperventilating about giving his speech, and we get some clips of the best of Wyatt, Adam, and Georgie. This is a small graduating class.
Yeah, very small. Yeah, there was like 20 kids for the most.
Yeah. So they have a small high school in Hudson. Of course, we've never seen the high school ever, I don't think.
Yeah. The season 1 pilot, I think we saw, and then it was done. We never saw Amy go to school again.
Yeah. So then we have this new person, this mysterious figure from her past, Quinn McGregor, and he's buying a stud horse, but he's really not there for that. He's there to find the girl, and evidently Quinn and Georgie had quite the thing in the Euro camp. That's why she had such a great time. So Jordan Burchett is now part of Heartland after this. He's in a bunch of episodes as Quinn. This is our new relationship for Georgie. What do you think?
Yeah, I really liked them together. I felt like their chemistry was there from the get-go, and I felt like it was a really good introduction to Quinn. I feel like a lot of the time the show sort of, like they did with Mitch, they kind of make them a little bit of a jerk, and then all of a sudden it was very nice. But I feel like they didn't really do that with Quinn. He's just a nice guy, and I hope that there's no sort of hidden agenda or anything sort of, I forget the other sort of love interest Georgie had last season or the season before, of the other jumper who was kind of a little
Matthew Reese.
Yeah, a little bit like,
What was his
you
name?
couldn't
Dylan?
really, Dylan, yeah, you couldn't really trust him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like Quinn might be a bit more of a mature relationship for Georgie. I was a little bit concerned when they said he was 21. But if Georgie's 18, then fair enough. But I was a little bit surprised that Heartland did that.
Yeah. I was a little surprised with that too. And I mean, it's just so much drama. Like I've said a million times that in my opinion, when you're in high school, you should just date for fun. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
you shouldn't have all these intense relationships. I mean, I guess sometimes it can't be avoided. You just, you feel how you feel. But I think if somebody were asking me for advice, I would say just group date, just have fun. Don't get anything serious in high school.
Yeah. But Heartland is so like obsessed with the long distance relationship aspect. Like nobody can stay in the same place other than Amy and Ty.
Yeah. Well,
this is like a huge issue.
Well, Hallmark's the same way. Like that's the favorite conflict of like we live in different cities. And I'm tired of it because it's so easily solvable.
Mm-hmm.
You just move. Like love is more important than wherever you live. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. Like, there's no place to live that's more important than your actual relationships with people. I don't know. I'm just tired of that as a conflict. I really am. And I know long distance relationships aren't like the best, but especially by this time it's 2019. I mean,
so what easier
way easier. So we have Jen and Peter holding hands. It's a little awkward for Lou, but she is a grown up and she handles it, I guess, pretty good. And then we have Jade throwing this like epic graduation party for Georgie, and she does get it all together pretty quick. DJ.
Yeah, Jade knows how to do a party.
I guess maybe there's not a whole lot of other events going on in Hudson.
Yeah, that party was for Jade and not for that.
Yeah. So then Mitch is trying to get the guys to buy this herd that's a high quality herd, but they won't do it. So he decides that he's going to go buy it himself and have it at Aspen Grove. And then he meets with Fred and they're going to have Aspen Grove beef competing with Heartland beef. So
I'm not looking forward to this one.
Well, it doesn't make sense. Like, how can they have enough at Heartland for this giant chain? Like, again, I'd understand if it was like artisanal beef or something like that, but for a grocery chain, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the herd that Mitch just bought, is that going to be bigger than the Heartland one, or is it the same? Like, we have no information to go on other than it's the big thing.
Yeah. Well, so Georgie ends up dancing with Quinn and they end up kissing. Wyatt sees it. And Wyatt says later on, he says that they can't go on the trip together because I still have feelings for you. When I saw you kiss Quinn, I felt like my heart got ripped out of my chest. We should say goodbye for real this time. And I thought that the actor playing Wyatt did a pretty good job in that moment.
Yeah, he did a really good job. I just got really frustrated with Wyatt just because again, it's down to, the writing and, him sort of being so, hot and cold in terms
wishy-washy.
of how he felt about Georgie being in a relationship, not being in a relationship, and it just felt like so back and forth and so like he couldn't make a decision. Therefore, I just got really frustrated with it. So I was kind of over it, and I'm sort of glad that they have moved on. But yeah, that scene was performed really well. I feel like he walks the line of like emotion really well. It doesn't go too over the top. Yeah, it was really well done.
Yeah. So then we have Tim getting very upset with Mitch. And they're going to be, like I said, in competition. Lisa makes Georgie muffins. After Georgie gets into the university, Lisa makes Georgie muffins and says she's thinking about managing. If she's thinking about managing horses, that she should come and work in Fairfield. So Lisa offers the job to Georgie, and then it turns out she's going to be mucking the stalls. And Lisa's like, it all starts at the bottom, which was funny.
Yeah, good on Lisa. Like, nobody gets preferential treatment here. You all start the same way.
I did think the ending with Quinn and Georgie all in white, looking like a perfume ad.
Yeah,
it was a little cheesy.
Yeah, it was really cheesy. It was a little bizarre. It was a strange choice.
Didn't it? Can you just sing like Obsession at the end or something like that? All in white. I don't know what the approved perfume is for cowboys and cowgirls, but anyway, it would be a good one if they were making one perfume ad. But yeah, I mean, I'd say I'd give this one. I mean, the graduation was very sweet, and it was a really nice moment for the the whole cast, and kind of look back on everything that we've experienced with Georgie. So that was nice. And so I don't know, I'd give this one an 8, I think, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Well, let us know if you're listening what you would give these 3 episodes and what you think of them. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section or on Twitter. And Michelle, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Michelle Arvin.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure that you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews 5 stars. It really helps us a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store, and the merch store has Heartland inspired merch. So definitely check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you all next week. Bye.